ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dennis, and this is Average Gaming, and welcome to the very first Average Reacts. Today we're going to be reacting to FalseSwipeGaming's video on how good was Aggron actually in competitive Pokemon generations 3 to 7. So I've seen a few of these videos before. He makes really great videos, really in-depth, really great, discussion points on how good a Pokemon was in competitive. And since we finished the RBL Draft League not too long ago and used Aggron, I figured let's check out his video. I have received permission from FalseSwipeGaming to do this reaction video, so thank you very much for that. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you go subscribe to him and me, because I put out a ton of content, most of which is Nuzlockes and fan games, but I'm hoping to spread out this year in 2022 and get more great content for you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the video.
Next up, we have the mighty Aggron. First coming to light as one of the rock-solid members of Champion Steven's team back in the Ruby and Sapphire days, this steel-plated dinosaur was always an imposing figure. And honestly, how can you not be? This thing looks freaking awesome. In fact, as a kid, I would just catch a Lairon every Victory Road and then evolve it to use against the Elite Four. They kind of just made it really accessible there. But anyways, we'd like to know how well Aggron translated this burly physique into competitive success, and thus we pose the question, like we do every week, how good was Aggron actually?
Alright, so before I finish the video, I do want to put out my prediction. My prediction is not that great. Aggron is bulky, he's really great at stalling physical hits, and he hits back relatively hard with some great moves. Stab Head Smash is freaking incredible, especially with Rockhead as his ability, but he's got 2 4x weaknesses that are pretty prevalent on most teams. And even with his bulky defense, a physical 4x weakness still usually KOs him. So my prediction is that he wasn't really that good in competitive. I don't think he's ever hit Ubers for like super popular use. So I'm gonna say at most OU, but I still don't think he's really gotten that much use in OU either. So let's see what FalseSwipeGaming has to say on it.
And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. Aggron's Generation 3 debut, unfortunately, did not have it see any major success in overuse. Aggron's got some large stats, especially its monstrous physical defense, but that didn't really do much because Rock and Steel is an absolutely awful defensive typing. You really won't do much good as a physical wall if you have a quadruple weakness to Earthquake, because that means you'll be one-hit KO'd by just about every physical attacker in Advanced. Being equally weak to fighting moves wasn't good either, since everyone and their mother this generation had Focus Punch and Brick Break. Advance was also the generation where the term bulky water originated, and Aggron certainly struggles against those. Not only does it struggle to hurt Suicune, Swampert, and Milotic, but it is also absolutely destroyed in return by their water stab moves, thanks to its horrendous special defense. Aggron also struggles to hurt common overused staples such as Skarmory, Celebi, Claydol, and Metagross, and is easily trapped by both Dugtrio and Magneton. It's outclassed both offensively and defensively by better overall Pokemon like Tyranitar and Metagross. In fact, even the rare Rhydon, a Pokemon that also has 2x4 weaknesses, has more of a niche in Advanced than Aggron. Thus, our metal friend found itself in underuse, where Aggron had quite the powerful presence. With choice-banded normal types such as Kangaskhan and Fearow running amok, Aggron had many opportunities to switch in and do some significant damage. A Substitute plus Focus Punch set was its bread and butter, even tending to pack Ice Beam to handle Glider that otherwise infinitely walled. It also could eschew the Substitute for Earthquake and slap on a Choice Band for a more prediction-reliant but also more powerful set that could catch walls such as Blastoise and Vileplume off guard with its immediate power. It wasn't an overwhelming force since it was still slow, and it's not like its weaknesses didn't exist in underuse, but the environment was much more hospitable to its use, and thus it did rather well in the tier, if wielded by a smart trainer. Now on to Gen 4, Aggron was never...
So, Gen 3, UU. I kind of predicted that, especially with all water moves still being special. He still has a weakness to water. It's going to destroy him. So his special defense is absolutely atrocious. But He looks so badass.
Seen in the 4th generation of overuse until the release of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, one of the best games in the franchise,
Oh,
by
hit
the way, where it
OU
received
in
the monstrous head
Gen
smash
4?
thanks to its rocket ability. It will take no recoil and thus could dish out absolutely horrifying damage without drawback. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, it didn't become an overused staple at all. Its negative traits are too crippling and too plentiful. However, it does have the tiniest of niches with Choice Band, since with Choice Band, it utterly cleaves open even rock-resistant Pokemon, such as Gliscor, Jirachi, and Bronzong, while mauling the catch-all physical wall Skarmory as well. Adventurous players will find an inconsistent but fun and potentially game-opening option in Aggron. But other than that tiny niche, our steel-plated Barney made its home and underused once again in the 4th generation. It wasn't a frontline metagame representative, but it was certainly a solid choice. The Choice Band set was once again terrifying, switching in on Chansey and Clefable to cause havoc, although it did have a conundrum in choosing which nature to use. Jolly could help outspeed common walls such as Venusaur and Milotic, but Adamant's power was simply ridiculous. The provenance of Registeel meant head smash spamming wasn't always the easiest thing in the world, but one Earthquake and that Registeel would be in trouble. Aggron also lessened its need for prediction by occasionally reverting to a sub-punch set, but this time with a deadly new toy in Magnet Rise. This newly gained Earthquake immunity made it incredibly tough to counter for Pokemon such as Steelix and Donphan, and massively helped
that's
against
pretty good move.
Dugtrio too. Aggron also had the option of jetting past faster and frailer offensive teams with a Rock Polish set. It would very often sweep since these teams really relied on their speed, and outside of Blaziken's Vacuum Wave, most priority bounce off of it due to being physical. Even Kabutops' super effective Aqua Jet barely scratched Aggron's massive physical bulk. It didn't top the usage stats, but Aggron was an underrated choice for underuse in Gen 4, capable of dishing out massive damage and possibly even pulling off a sweep. Now on to the infamous Weather generation. Sadly, Aggron stood no chance in overused here. It was weak to absolutely everything offensive in the metagame, and there was even a new terrific stop to head smash in the amazing Ferrothorn. And with that, underused's power creep resembling the previous generation's overuse wasn't good either, and thus Aggron dropped to the new rarely used. There, however, it was pretty good. Its Choice Band set was one of the most feared Pokemon around, and it loved taking advantage of stabs from Choice Durant and Druddigon to throw out its trademark head smash. Other than that though, it was mostly the same story. Slow, weak to common attacks, but really powerful. And Rock Polish would occasionally blow away an offensive team, but it was difficult to pass up on its usual set that threatened to rip apart any stall team and was almost guaranteed to take at least one Pokemon out in any game. Alright, X and Y. Aggron got...
Alright, so this is where I'm predicting he's getting a big buff to his stuff. Because getting the Mega is super important. His ability Filter reduces all super effective damage, and he loses the rock typing, which means he no longer has those 2/4 times weaknesses. It does open him up to a fire weakness that he didn't have before, but also with the induction of Fairy, Steel is just such a much better type now. I feel like he may actually have hit OU in this tier. Probably not, because there's still much better Megas, but we'll see.
Got a huge boost in the 6th generation, being among the first wave of Mega evolutions. Upon evolving, it would shed the rock typing that burdened it with so many weaknesses and became pure steel. It gained the amazing ability Filter, which further weakened super effective attacks.
Can we just talk about how well he took that freaking Earthquake from a Mega Garchomp? Mega Garchomp used Earthquake on him, and he didn't even drop out of green health. That's insane.
And its defense rose to titanic heights. Now, with all of that said, it still wasn't quite overused material, since it didn't offer too much useful utility and tended to be overwhelmed with its lack of recovery, since it couldn't even hold leftovers. Thus, it fell to underuse, where it found use on some stall teams that had Blissey, Alomomola, and Florges help it out in the recovery department, thanks to their enormous wishes. To give an idea of how bulky it was, it could survive 2 Choice Band Earthquakes from Crocodile with minimal investment. It would often set up Stealth Rock, since it matched up well against common defoggers and rapid spinners, but could also go for a sweep with a more specially defensive curse set. Now, it did face stiff Mega competition thanks to how effective Aerodactyl, Beedrill, and Sharpedo were, but you also may notice that it actually counters them really hard, and thus could fit as an anti-metagame choice or as part of the most unbreakable stall teams in underused. And as for regular Aggron had a small niche and never used, and technically rarely used, but didn't actually see much use despite what it could do. Sometimes certain Pokemon who are perfectly decent slip under the radar, and this is accurate for Aggron. At least it never used. Rarely used wasn't quite as kind an environment. In Gen 6 VGC, Aggron wasn't exactly a VGC mainstay, but was glimpsed a few times throughout the 2014 season. Despite Aggron receiving a Mega form, the Mega competition was pretty stiff, with Kangaskhan, Lucario, Mawile, the Charizards, and Gardevoir ruling the roost. And unfortunately, Aggron's attacking options are meager, and its low special defense is preyed upon easily, thus the spare use. And as for VGC placements, and I'm so sorry if I butcher your names, but Aggron was used by Nick Bailey, Jade Bachelor, and an unknown Carl at the UK Nationals. Nikhil Gokul reached 7 with it at the South African Nationals as well, and it was also shockingly used in its regular form by Gincho to reach the top 16 of the Ganyu off, which is a qualifier in the Kyushu region. But the most notable placement, however, comes from Ashton Cox, aka Link Yoshimaru, to reach 13th at Worlds 2014, using regular Aggron at that. He utilized an off-the-cuff Assault Vest set that dominated Talonflame, could help control speed with Rock Tomb, and even survive Garchomp Earthquakes, thanks to the split damage. Ashton Cox said in his article, which if you want to read is linked in the description, said he basically brought Aggron to counter Talonflame, and he initially played it before the tournament as a joke, but ended up loving using it. Unconventional, yes, but he made it work on the highest stage to a degree.
Nice.
And now Gen 7. It took a while, but in Ultra Sun and Moon, Aggron found itself a niche on stall teams for its ability to keep several incredibly dangerous Pokemon in check, most notably renowned stall killer Mega Mawile. It also handled other brutally powerful threats that troubled most stall teams, such as Kartana and Tapu Bulu, while packing a meaty resistance to Choice Specs' Tapu Lele Psyshock, which is usually aimed at Chansey, and Aggron itself is also generally difficult to kill for anything one-on-one. Stab Earthquakes from offensive Garchomp and Landorus Therian, as well as Zygarde's Choice Band 1000 Arrows, just bounce right off of it, and with the right EVs, it could even survive Heatran's Magma Storm, powered up into Infernal Overdrive, before earthquaking it into dust and dispatching of a huge threat to the stall team. This ability to 1v1 most stall threats was what made Aggron good, even if it didn't come across one of the specific Pokemon it was trying to check. For recovery, Wish as well as Rest alongside Heal Bell from its teammates did just fine, and Aggron surely loved seeing opposing Tapu Bulu who provide recovery for it. It's a very specific niche, but Aggron does have a place in overused stall. In underused, Mega Aggron fulfilled the same role as in the previous generation on very similar teams. Its titanic bulk helping it stand up to powerful Z moves was well appreciated by its teammates, and being able to actually hit back off its meaty attack stat was the icing on the cake. Meanwhile, regular Aggron fell all the way to PU this time around. There, however, its Choice Band set feasted on the weaker surroundings, and it could even function as a solid offensive Stealth Rock setter. And that's it. So how good was Aggron actually? Well, it was never a top tier overused threat, that's for sure. Despite rare forays into somewhat of a niche, it was for the most part strictly a lower tier Pokemon, but at least there it was solid. Never a dominant force, but almost always one of the more Pokemon who are at least decent in the metagame, and that Choice Band head smash is scary no matter what tier it's in. In VGC, it had very sparing uses one year, and even made the unlikeliest of Worlds appearances, but overall its low speed, bad weaknesses, and limited damage output hindered it too badly for anything afterwards. Overall, Aggron was pretty much on the below average side, but it had its time and its place. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always...
Yeah, alright, so that's about what I predicted. You know, putting him in UU most of the time makes a lot of sense. I'm glad to see that in Gen 7 he hit OU with his Mega as a pretty regular competitor. My own experience with Aggron was that his weaknesses make him very vulnerable and oftentimes taken advantage of. There'd be many times where even a non-stab fighting move in the RBL would take him out. So I can see that. Thank you so much to FalseSwipeGaming for letting me react to this video. If you guys enjoyed this, please leave a like and a subscribe if you're not already, and drop a comment and let me know what you want to see me react to next. Till then, thank you guys very much for watching, and as always, game on.